I'm Peter Marks, theater critic of The Washington Post.
And I'm Elizabeth Vincentelli, and I write for The New York Times. Oh, here we are. We're back. Okay, the last one with Jocelyn Bio was so good, the last podcast. But I think today is going to be on the same level. I have a feeling today is going to be another fun one. Just saying.
Yeah, and hi, Elizabeth. It's lovely to be back with you.
It's been too long.
We're in the thick of the right. We're in the thick of the.
We're so busy.
Yeah, we're in the thick of the season right now. But yes, Jocelyn's play, since we interviewed her, has opened to terrific reviews. Jaja's African hair braiding at the Samuel Friedman Theater on Broadway is now extended, twice or something already. So it's having a very healthy life, and that's very exciting.
And listeners should go on the play's website because they're going to stream. They're going to live stream.
Yeah, for a week.
Performances in November, which is great.
Yeah, it's very smart.
I highly recommend if you're from anywhere in the world, I think, you can just buy a streaming ticket.
Yeah, maybe we can even post the link on our on our Substack.
Anyway,
it might be helpful for people.
I've seen I've been pretty excited by some shows I've seen recently. So we should do like an episode of Marks and Vincentelli, because I realized I also forgot to mention the name of the podcast. We should do the season has been really busy, and I don't know about you, but I've seen some actual good shows that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's a weird season so far for me. I've seen some very good things. Maybe it's this way every year. We get so immersed in what we're doing at the moment that we lose some context and perspective. But it's a strange and every day in my inbox is the announcement of another show that's coming to Broadway in the spring. It's going to be wild.
Spring?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be wild, but I think it's going to be also a bloodbath for
right. Well, there's
some
tons
of the
musicals.
shows. Because
I don't know what what's in the water at the moment in terms of, and certainly what's in the wallets in terms of the amount of money that's going to be doled out for this.
I really deeply want to be optimistic about this, but I don't know that there's an audience for all of those shows. And of course, all of them, go in there with the best of intentions. We're going to find our audience. I really hope there's people who are going to see these shows, because there's a lot of them have very high price tags.
Right.
I don't know. It's a little...
Yeah, and also we've seen, that the track record from last season is not all that promising. Almost I think all the new musicals except for Kimberly Akimbo have either closed or announced their closing dates. So it's not like things are long-lived, at least, or long-lived. I don't even know which that is the right way to say it. But
livid.
Livid. Yeah.
Livid.
Some nights we are both livid. So.
Oh, yes.
Anyway,
okay.
One thing we can, I think, happily report on is that comedy this season is making its presence felt. And one of the writers of one of the best recent comedies, Selina Fillinger, is going to be our guest today. She's the zany brain behind POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass, Are 7 Women Trying to Keep Him Alive. That made a great appearance on Broadway last year. The story of a calamitous day in the administration of a philandering male commander-in-chief. It's played by an entire cast of women. And its Broadway run featured people like Rachel Dratch and Julie White and Leah Delaria, great comedians themselves.
Vanessa Williams.
Exactly, as the First
great.
Lady. And now Arena Stage in D.C. and Steppenwolf in Chicago are producing their own versions of Selina's White House farce.
Which is like one of the reasons also, there's these 2 productions, but they're very representative because, as it turns out, since its premiere last year, the play has become one of the most produced in the U.S. I think it was 3rd it's very high on the annual list of the most produced plays in the United States. It's near the top. And,
interesting.
Which I'm very happy to see. So, there's clearly a demand for that. We'll ask Selina why she thinks this success, but I'm kind of it's great. It's great to see, and it's a politically minded comedy, but it's also it's like a full-on farce. There's a lot of physical, there's a lot of slapstick, and it's as you know, I am really very fond of that particular style. What's interesting too is that she made her New York debut with something very different. It was a play called Something Clean, which was at the Roundabout Underground, which is a very small black box, in 2019, and it was about a woman whose son has been involved, implicated in I think like a campus rape. Like he was a basketball star, so it's completely different in theme and style. And Selina's very young, so like who knows what she'll come up with next. And also, in addition, she's also in the writers' room for the Apple TV show, The Morning Show.
Wow.
And I think when she was working on POTUS, she was commuting between Broadway and the writers' room in LA.
Incredible.
So that's like an interesting thing to talk about because, of course, so many playwrights are doing the same double career thing.
Right. Well, that's a really nice intro for Selina, who, by the way, on her website writes, "I want joyful revolution, tender leaders, rowdy art," which seems an appropriate motto for someone who creates a farce as rowdy and robust as POTUS. So, welcome to our podcast, Selina. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. I guess just to start out, the question on my mind, having just seen this wonderful play again, it's so laced with joy at the center of it. The joy of these great characters you've created who have so much freedom on stage to be themselves. How did this joyful revolution, as you call it, first erupt for you? Where did this all come from?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. It came from not a very joyful place, as you maybe could guess that as well. I think it came when I was first. I think the moment that put pen to paper was when the leaked tape of Trump talking about grabbing women came out. The themes are not none of the themes were new ideas for me. I think built up over a lifetime of rage. None of the themes were new for me. And even when the tape came out, I wasn't shocked that he spoke like that or that was caught on tape. But what was actually really interesting to me about that moment was the ways in which the media kind of scrambled around to talk about it. The media was like, "Are we allowed to say the thing?" And that was really interesting to me because there was a moment where in real time, a presidential candidate who wasn't even elected yet was impacting the way that the news was being reported and what people could say and what people couldn't say. And that was super fascinating to me. And then after he was elected and it came out that so many white women had voted for him, even in the wake of that tape coming out, I really started to think about voting against our rights and why people do that, what makes people do that. I was thinking about proximity to power and how that makes people willing to sacrifice certain things they would not normally be willing to sacrifice. And then ultimately thinking about complicity in our own subjugation and the subjugation of others. So that was, it was developing. The moment where I put the pen to paper was definitely after the tape was released. But then after, it changed so much as the world was changing. So, but the joy came because I felt sad and I felt small and I felt angry. I felt very, I had just graduated from college and I was like entering the world as an adult and I didn't know how to do it. I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be an adult in this world. I don't feel valued by my country. I don't feel like my votes are being earned. There were all these things that were coming up for me. And so I needed to laugh and I needed to smile. I wanted to make myself feel good. I wanted to make my like loved ones, my friends, my roommates feel good. And so I just started to write it there. So it is a lot of joy. Gave me a lot of joy, and it came from a really necessary place.
But do you remember, was there a moment, was there a light bulb moment when you decided to write specifically about the women involved behind the scene and not any of the men?
I always knew I wasn't going to write the men. I was like done. I was done with the airtime. I was like, I do not want to hear this voice. I do not want to hear this voice. I don't want to hear this person. I didn't, and I thought if he is on stage, I cannot laugh, because if he's on stage, I was going to have to watch him treat them a certain way. And if he's off stage, I can imagine how he has treated them. But I don't have to see it in real time. And then so there's enough distance that I can laugh. So I always knew. I mean, even when we were watching, I was like fascinated. The campaign, like the election, there was always an orbit of women around Trump. I was like, that's so interesting. There's always an orbit around him, Kavanaugh, Epstein, Weinstein. Like there's always like these women that are like hurting them, like little moms, just you're okay. And I was just, it's fascinating to me. And I'm like, who are you? What is this cognitive dissonance? But then on a much smaller scale, I think we all do that on a much smaller scale with less obvious, less black and white ways. We enable patriarchal systems to exist, because in truth, there are more people in the world who are not men than there are people who are men. And so in truth, we are actually the majority. And so if we did not comply, it would not continue, So I think those are things that I was thinking about. So I always knew that I didn't want to see it because I wanted to laugh.
I'm realizing what a catharsis it is. Well, it is for me, and certainly it was for you, to see the first image we get of the president in this piece. I won't give away too much, but that aspect of it had to be kind of like the fantasy of how many of us felt. I also think, Selina, it's interesting. I look around when I'm in the theater. I'm a student of everybody's reaction. I don't necessarily report what I see around me, but the men in the audience laugh just as hard as the women do. There is an allyship that has happened, I think, and an understanding of the issues you raise that doesn't really leave anybody out as someone who can laugh with you and enjoy the points you're scoring.
Well, I will just say that the allyship only works as long as the guys still get to do their stuff. The support stops once they have to make space.
But
that's just also my snarky comment there.
No, I agree. I think that's a really valid point. I also just think that the tricky thing when we are talking about toxic systems is that we're not talking about individuals. And so everybody can be complicit and everybody can play a role, and we can accept our responsibility in that role, while also knowing that on individual levels, people can change, grow, open, adapt, learn, all of those things. And so I think, everyone's a necessary cog in the, I don't even remember, I heard something recently where I was someone said something about being well, I mean, it would be a man doing the part, and I was like, men are necessary cogs in the revolutionary machine. And
so true.
And my husband was like, I'm going to put that in my Instagram bio, necessary cog in the revolutionary machine.
That's great.
But it's just it's true. And I think that there's space for everybody. And this is not going after a single man. And also the men also are suffering in their own ways for these systems. And so I think there's something about it. And I also just on a personal note, it was very important to me that men find this script funny as well, because I don't only want to write something that only is for one group of people. And also I'm like so done with the idea of like men not thinking that women are funny. And I'm absolutely over that. And I'm like, you have no monopoly over this. And so it's very important to me there's so many male comedians that I love watching that I don't necessarily relate to what they're saying, but I admire their craft, or I think they're funny, or I do relate to what they're saying because actually like gender doesn't really matter and humans are humans and gender is way less binary than we've been talking about it for the last couple centuries. And so I think that humans are so empathetic, and I can see myself in so many different performances that were not quote unquote meant for me. And so I really think that it's important that we have that be a two-way street, because I think that empathy is a muscle, and it's like the arts is one of the only ways that we do that. And so if you're just like, well, I don't find that type of thing funny, it's like, that's actually a dangerous thing. You need to start to learn to listen and consider why you don't find that funny, if that's sort of like, but then just like on a basic level, it's like, I like making my dad laugh. I like making my husband laugh. Like, I want everyone to have a good time,
Can you tell us a little bit how you ended up, like, how did you end up in theater? Was there like a moment when you were growing up, or when did you decide that it was one of the mediums that you could work in? Because you also work on, on TV.
Yeah.
So how did you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I was always involved in the performing arts, even when I was like a little kid. I was a dancer for a while. I did ballroom dance from age 6 to like 14. I did ballroom.
Where'd you grow up?
Eugene, Oregon. Famously a hub of ballroom dance. No, it's just like, I danced. I was like, I think I was 5 and I was doing little ballet classes or something, for like little 5-year-olds. And then I one day was getting my shoes packed up and I saw like there was like some teenage ballroom dance troupe like came in right after class. And I was 5 or 6 and I was like, wow, like they came in, I was like, they're amazing. They're like doing tango and stuff. And so I started when I was like 6 taking ballroom dance lessons, but I was in plays and things. And then when I was 16, I went to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival summer seminar for juniors, which is like a 2-week camp for 16-year-olds. And that really blew my mind. We saw all of these shows in the festival. And then I got to meet people who were working. It was the first time we kind of demystified it. It was like, oh, these are working professionals and they're not necessarily super famous or like movie stars, but they are paying their bills. They have stable lives. They're working in the theater. And so that kind of showed me how it would be possible. But in my family, my immediate family, they're all kind of like visual artists. They're not necessarily performance artists, but my aunt my aunt and uncle are like mimes and clowns, like, and comedians. And then my grandparents were dancers. And actually my great grandmother's first cousins were the Three Stooges.
Wait, what?
Wait,
what? like,
you mean Mo, Larry, and Curly? Mo and Larry and Curly, or which one of them? Two of them,
definitely
right?
Mo, and then I'm trying to remember which it was either
Curly, Mo Howard.
Yeah, it was Mo, and I think Curly.
Oh my God!
Right.
And Mo actually proposed to my great grandmother, and she turned him down.
Oh my God!
So I have like very much like a line of like Jewish, like vaudevillian. Like
the finest for humor, as we all know.
Oh my God!
It's like royalty.
Yeah, and so the first, I think, just because that was my family, the first, shows that I was exposed to were like Charlie Chaplin and like, Singing in the Rain, like these kind of things because of who my grandparents were and who, what was important to them. And so I think I just grew up with that, even though my immediate family weren't like, my brother, my parents, they're not performing people, but they are, they're artists, they're creative people. They exposed me to a lot of art and a lot of performance. and always like, encouraged me to do music and dance and all that stuff. So I think it was just kind of always there. And then I went to Northwestern, and I entered as an actor. I took intro to playwriting on a whim. Like I had been writing my whole life, but it was just for me. Like it never occurred to me that I could do it professionally. It was something that I just did for my own enjoyment. And then I took intro to playwriting, like, I'm a good writer. This will be fun. And then it was the hardest class I had ever taken. I cared so much. And it was the first time I think I had a teacher who was really pushing me and like critiquing my writing. I was like, I thought I was a good writer. And now I'm getting all these things back that have like, red lines all over it. I was like, oh my God, But so then out of that, for that intro to playwriting class, I had to have 30 pages of a full length play. And so I did that. And I was like, wow, never doing that again. That was too hard.
What a pain.
And Laura Shellhart, my teacher, encouraged me to submit those 30 pages to this campus playwriting festival called Agnes Nixon New Work Festival, I think is what it was called, and named after Agnes Nixon, who wrote the
All My Children, right?
Yeah. And so I submitted it and it was picked. It was one of the 3 plays that was picked. And I only had 30 pages, which meant then I had to finish it for the festival.
Wow.
And so that was the first play I ever wrote. And it was so challenging and it totally changed my life. And then after that, I just took every class that I could. And I did the acting track and the playwriting track simultaneously. And yeah.
You know what's fascinating about this? We talked to Jocelyn Bio a few weeks ago, who had the same, not the same obviously, but a similar epiphany in college about writing and playwriting and how that, that sort of put her on a path. And I'm fascinated by, there's so much talking down these days of MFA programs or programs that enroll young people in theater, and as if it's it's a dead end. And really what you're affirming for me is the value of theater education. Look what it did. Look what made possible that you never thought was possible. It created really instilled in you this belief, this self-belief that ended up with a Broadway play.
Absolutely. And also just like connections with theaters and how the theaters actually worked. My parents always were so encouraging of me, like as my writing, my creativity, like all of that. But they weren't in the industry. And to have I think having professors who are also working professionals in the field who can be like, this is a really good script. I'm going to have you meet with an actual lit manager who can actually be like, give you an experience of what it would be like to have like a professional lit manager giving you feedback, or just to have I learned craft and I learned technique, but I also learned how to like proofread and format a script and how to take meetings and how to be a professional person. And, it was part of the reason I wanted to go to Northwestern was because it was a liberal arts education and not a conservatory, because even though I wanted to pursue theater still going in, I was always like, I don't know if I'm in the right place. Maybe I should be a political science major. I'm kind of interested in speech writing, I kind of was not sure. And so I think having the craft, having the technique is one really necessary part. And then having practical, pragmatic, up-to-date current industry information by people who are currently working in the industry is super important.
Do you think it's also important to be versatile in a way? Because like so many playwrights we know also work in TV. Like, do you feel the 2 skills were pretty easy to adapt? Like going back and forth, or are they kind of like a different approach in you? Because in TV, my understanding is that, but we can talk about that in theater too. Like the idea of the writer's room is a very distinctive TV approach. Yes. So how do you work in both settings?
I think being able to work well with people is important regardless, like in rehearsals, on stage, in writer's room, like having good social skills and being able to read rooms and read power dynamics and tread sensitively into difficult territories, and to have boundaries and to advocate for yourself and for others in the room, and just be a good spirit in the room is super, super important across medium. I would say that the storytelling techniques, I think if you can write a good play, you can write a good TV show, and you can write a good feature. That's my personal opinion, because I just think that good story is good story, and character driven. It's sort of like plays are good as like these little capsules that exist, and you have the live performance. And I think if you can make it as earning the live performance, making it as physical as possible, and like leaning into the pleasure of watching actors sweat on stage, that's great, you know? And then TV, I think you have so much more space. You can really like develop over a thing. And then a feature, you can go into all these like epic places. So I think story is story, and good technique and good craft goes throughout. I will say that the industries and the skills needed in the industries feel very different. I think learning how to pitch, I pitch constantly for TV and film, because with TV and film, they don't normally like pay you unless they buy your idea. So learning how to pitch, you kind of have to write it all in your head before you get to actually write it. So that was a big thing to learn, how to successfully pitch, how to talk about your work, how to talk about yourself. Again, like it's different from like learning how to do a talk back, learning how to take notes, learning how to be in a leadership position in the rehearsal room and understand actors' process and understand when they need you to give them the line and give them a little bit extra support, and when you need to sit back and let them actually come to it on their own. Those are all things where I think it requires a sensitivity to people and their needs. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Speaking of learning, you take on a world in POTUS that I presume this is not from firsthand knowledge. Is this cultural osmosis? Is it like West Wing sort of like education that happens, that gives you license to create this world? Because, the most interesting thing for me was bringing this piece to DC, where there was going to be always a kind of like, let's see if she really gets the world she's conjuring, and you do. You just do. And I wonder if that was, more the flavor that you were after, or really convincing people that they were getting a taste of the backstage in the White House.
Whether I have license to do it is for others to say. Whether I have a right to be doing anything is, I don't know. I don't know if I can make that call. But I think that it's so funny, because I had so many people be like, you must have spent time on the Hill. And I was like, I've never been to DC actually until the Arena stage production.
Oh, that's great.
And I'd always wanted to. I think that it is a feeling that permeates all industries. And if you even have worked on a challenging group project, I think that you are familiar with how it all goes. I mean, I think the thing is like what good theater does, right? Is it like represents a microcosm that is indicative of the macro, And so it was like, and the settings change, but the core human things like stay the same. Like, just if you've ever gone through a really bad tech week, or like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good equivalent for you guys right now.
Yeah.
But I think like, I think if you're writing for a, outlet, like you become really enmeshed with the people that you're writing with, who you're sharing with, and you're like, there's a competition, and there's deadlines, and there's like the things that go wrong, and there's the source that drops, like all that stuff. Like, exactly. I can imagine all of that stuff. And so it's just having enough little bit of jargon, but it's kind of a magic trick. It's like, I'm going to drop this signifier, I'm going to drop this jargon. But the heart, I really think you could take the play and you could put it in a school, in an office, in a household, But So I'm very honored, that people feel that I had a familiarity. And I think it's also just like reading the news. I can imagine.
Right.
I can imagine
Yeah.
the labor
Yeah.
that took to get that story out, and
Yeah.
and just like observing, even just like watching a piece from the press room. I'm like, oh my God, what an inhumane environment for all,
You were talking about like the team working as a team and like adapting to the room, and so when you did the Broadway production of POTUS, like you had a cast of like comedy snipers. I mean, they were just like,
Oh, good term.
Comedy snipers is my term. So how much did the play change based on, like, because when you have people like Rachel Dratch and Julie White and all these people who are all very different styles too.
Yeah.
How did you work with them once you started seeing them in action? Like, did you feel like, oh, I could push this one more in that direction? Or like, how did that impact the play, being in the room with them?
Yeah. I mean, I was working with Susan Stroman. She was the director, and
Right.
she's like, a remarkable human, a remarkable artist. I call her the classiest act on Broadway. She's just like a remarkable person. And so I think you need a really good director, like both for the Arena Stage production. We had Margot Bordelon, who is, one of my favorite directors to work with. I just think she's absolutely
great.
Extraordinary and a master of new work. And so I think you need to have these directors who can see it like an orchestra, see it like a symphony where you have this person. They don't need to be all doing the same instruments, but they all need to be working together. So I love working with directors who understand that, who can be like, actually, here you need to be quieter so you can be louder. And then here you need to come through this door so that she's clear for this thing. It's like it feels almost like a musical, the farce, because it's so choreographed. And the difference between whether you laugh or not is sometimes like, did the door slam before or after the line? Or did you, does that sentence have one too many consonants? Or are there too many vowels in that sentence? It needs more consonants because consonants are funnier than vowels. And
okay. I need an example of that. Like can you illustrate that? Because that's fascinating, that vowel consonant theory. I never thought of that, but it kind of makes sense.
They say the letter K is funny.
Yeah, plosives, things like that are funny. I think, like when I was taught Shakespeare, like my entrance to it was through Shakespeare. And I was always taught when you're studying the text and when you're learning about how this informs your character, that the vowels hold emotion and the consonants hold intellect. And you can really experience it on a physical level just as an actor. And I think because I'm an actor, I really think about my text that way as well. When they have those big, like when the characters come out, when they're like messengers, or what I'm trying to think of a good example, like Medea or something, and she comes out and she's like, oh, and she's coming out. It's like truly, it's opening up the body, it's opening up the vessel, it's letting the sound come out, and it's having a physiological effect on the actor and making them more easily able to access their tears, their stuff like, their open-heartedness. It truly changes their body in a way that makes them more likely to weep, to cry, to have resonance, to like reach what the text is asking them to do. And so, I'm no Shakespeare, but I do think about my writing this way. And so if I'm trying to land a thought, if the line is too long, it won't be funny. I'm trying to think of like an edit that I made. I remember in this was Julie White, like clocked this. There's a scene where she's talking to Stephanie and she's like, what does she say? She goes, Stephanie, I need you to find something that the president can sit on, something that allows him to sit. And Stephanie goes, like a chair. And Harriet, I think initially her line was something like, you think that if this could have been solved by something with a chair, that I would have figured this out by now. And Julie turned to me and she was like, I think we're missing a joke here. I don't think this needs to be what this is. Like, it's such a stupid thing that she just said.
Right.
And I was like, right. You should say, no, not like a chair.
Right.
And what is funny with that is on two levels. One, it's short, so we can hear it better. And it's also another thing that, and again, I don't know why we like this, but we love symmetry. So like a chair, no, not like a chair. There's something about the repetition of the same line set in the same cadence that makes it funnier. And it's important that it be in the same cadence, because again, if it's like a chair, no, not like a chair. It's less funny than if it's like dum 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 dum. And it's something about the musicality of it that really actually makes a difference in a joke. So that is kind of an example in terms of there's the content of what they're saying, which needs to be smart, funny, and emotional and accurate and all those things. But then I spend a lot of time about the actual rhythm of each sentence. And I think that I can, it can really annoy people, because people be like, what's the difference between if I say and, or if I say but, or if I say or here? And I'm saying, I'm telling you, the audience doesn't know why there's a difference, but it impacts them differently. And I don't know why, but I'm telling you it does.
And it's the same thing with the written word. I think people hear written words. They hear it. The difference is you have more control on stage on how it's expressed, on the actual emphasis, where the stress is. But I think that many people, when they read, they hear. At least I try to do that. And there's nothing more satisfying than making people laugh, having a funny line anywhere. I wondered for you, Selina, what is the experience like of being in a room and knowing that 500 or 1,000 or 1,200 people are responding with laughter to something that came out of your head? What is that? What is that sensation like? Can you appreciate it? Can you say, that's me? Or is it sort of is it out of a body experience of, like, who wrote that? How do you experience it?
It's a really interesting question. I mean, this is, I guess, really, I get really like mystical. And so bear with me if I think this is where like my witch comes out. I just think that my writing experience is always, and I think it's helpful for me this way, to feel very much as if it lives not in me, but like it's sometimes like when I'm writing and I'm having a new play idea, I have this sensation that it's like floating like right in my peripheral vision, like just outside of me. And then if I can just get quiet enough that it will like feel safe enough to come through. And so there's always of course I feel possessive. I feel a sense of belonging, but I often, it doesn't necessarily feel that it is of me, rather that like it just came through me. And I think that's a helpful thing for me to think as well, because it also just makes it less personal when it doesn't come through me, and as opposed to me being really, like learning to think of it that way has really helped me, so that I'm less punishing to myself when it's not coming out of me, and being like, okay, it'll come. It's there. It's come. And then I can sort of, I guess I'm very weird and mystical with it, where I'll often talk, to it and sort of be like, you can come now. It's okay, But so I think there's always a strange disembodied quality, and it really only feels like mine when I'm writing it alone in my room. And as soon as you hand it over to someone, it starts to change. And it's a long process of learning to let go. And so by the time, it goes from, the ether to me, to a director, to actors, to eventually the audience. And it's like this long channel. And so it's this long process of letting go. So it's very pleasurable when people laugh, but there is this strange distance where, especially with plays from a few years ago, when I see them, especially because they're like time capsules of who I was a while ago. And sometimes I think it's strange. I look at it and I'm like, who wrote that? What an interesting, fascinating.
Right. That's so cool.
But
It's really
And there's quite a change of tone between your first, I mean, the first play that you did in New York, which was at the Roundabout Underground, I think, Something Clean, which is a drama, and then you changed tack. Like when you thinking back about that play, which was just like, I think 2019, so not that long ago, but you must feel like, oh my God, like what a gulf.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've always, because I wrote other plays too in between them. And so I try to, every time I write, do something different than what I've ever done because I want to keep learning. And I think I'm a very emotional person. I mean, I think that's the joke with POTUS. I'm like, despite my very irreverent play, I'm like a super earnest person. And I'm very emotional. I have a lot of big feelings. I care a lot about things. And so I'm not like a going around like as a very sarcastic whatever. It's like that play needed to be what it was because the characters and the story and the themes demanded it. But I don't only write farce and I don't only write comedy. And a slow burn, intimate drama like Something Clean still feels as much of me as the comedy. So I think I didn't go to grad school and I started writing really young and started being professionally produced very young. And so it's kind of this, learning in public, growing in public situation. And I want to keep getting better and I want to keep changing and I don't want to ever know what my thing is because then I would know what my not thing is. So I'm realizing I keep on remembering this is an audio form and I keep on doing like air quotes and things that I'm realizing people can't see. But I think that I try to pick projects that I don't know how to write when I sit down to write them so that I will then learn over the course of writing it and then do something different in the next thing. So I think I'll always have humor in it just because I think even when you're doing drama, like sad people are always very funny.
Well, I think, I see connections way back. I understand somehow that idea of the disembodied quality or that quality of something coming to you, that sort of it lines up finally on the runway. Because I had even intimations of Aristophanes and Lysistrata with this play. There's a great amazing, one of the earliest themes in drama was women taking power, which you have so beautifully distilled in 2022 and 2023 in this play. And I salute you for the, for being plugged into this great dramatic circuitry that you clearly both intuitively and I think experientially reveal in your work.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I think it's, a lot of people, when they see it, they're like, oh, it's like Veep meets Noises Off, or like Noises Off meets Bridesmaids. And those are all great things. And so I'm like, sure, that's fine.
Right.
I'll absolutely take that. But that's never what I set out to do. I was really thinking about like Carol Churchill, who I love, and Oscar Wilde, who is remarkable, and Albee and with Moliere, like these things are really, I don't know, it's all over the place. I think there's like this funny thing, especially as like there's a loss of education, and of like a lot of classic plays and playwrights. And so people don't understand that a lot of the things that they're seeing on TV that are like really novel are in fact rooted in like Oscar Wilde was doing it, before, before, Aaron Sorkin was like known for being like really witty, there was like other people who were also known for being really witty, and it's not taking away from what we're currently doing, but we should know the comedic and linguistic legacies that we're a part of so that we can break away from them intentionally or not,
Yeah, one other question I had was about your language. It's your play starts with a very salty word. Was that? Were you worried at all that that would concern people who wanted to produce your play? It's it's delicious way to start because it really, and the audience actually totally eats it up. But was there ever like a worry about how far you could go linguistically with with modern vernacular?
It's I was so naive, when I started out, and I really I didn't have lofty dreams. I really was writing it for myself. I wrote it so it could be done in a black box. It never occurred to me it would be done on Broadway. I was 23. I had commissioned plays that I was writing. I had commissions that I was supposed to be working on that theaters were in theory going to maybe produce. And this one was not commissioned. No one asked me to write it. I was doing it on the side,
Wow.
It was my little lover on the side that I had.
Did you sneak away with?
That I sneak away with when I was supposed to be working on my commissioned plays. I started it around the time when I was still was in the middle of writing Something Clean as well. So, there was some overlap there. And I think that I was very naive. I thought, oh my gosh, so castable. 7 women of different ages, different races. It's a comedy. I was like, everyone would want to do this, and when it went out in the world, I was really shocked. So many people came back to me and they were like, we love this. We can't do this. Our audience cannot.
Right.
And
I'm sorry. What was the main objection? Was it the language, or were they like, well, maybe can we have one guy for the men in the audience to identify with? Did you get that, or was it the language? Why did they say we can't really?
I think it was usually nobody suggested adding men, but there was, I think there was anxiety around the language. But of course, these things are so coded, right? No one is quite worrying about Mammoth or Shepherd or Albee or all of these other playwrights. Carol Churchill. I mean, maybe she. There's a reason why I guess she's not done everywhere anymore. But there are these theaters that are doing Sam Shepard plays or doing Mammoth plays that have, I would think, as foul language in it. I do think it comes down to women on stage saying things that are less delicate. I do think that because I had someone who I had a conversation with about this, and he was like, "We just can't." And I said, can you tell me why? There's no sex on stage. There's no actual violence on stage. Not everything graphic happens off stage. Really what this is 7 women saying a bunch of bad stuff, And and he was like, there's lots of bodily fluids. and I said like breast milk. And he was like, it's just there's a it's, and I was like, okay. And so I just think it's kind of coded in that way. And so it sat dormant for about 4 years or something until until Greg Noble got his hands on it and decided it was going to go cold on Broadway. Actually, there was one theater to shout out that was planning on doing it before it went to Broadway. It was McCarter Theater. And I was really always so it meant a lot to me that they're we're going to do it. Cause they were the first one. They was on the Kilroy's list cause all these lit managers loved it. But then we're I don't know. I don't think our audiences could. But then it's such a funny thing because now it's, the 3rd most produced play and all these regional theaters, across in conservative states, liberal states, small theaters, big theaters, it's happening all over. And I think that's partially from it helps to have that Broadway stamp, but it also just goes to show. And the whole point of the play was our president talked about this, and I'm not allowed to,
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Selina, I think we've hell, we could talk to you for another hour and 45 minutes, but I think we should let you go. I know you have other responsibilities. Are you working on a play right now?
I am. Well, I'm in Steppenwolf's housing right now. I'm here for the Steppenwolf opening of POTUS. So that's where I'm
great.
at right now. And I just was in New York doing a reading of my new Roundabout commission. And was hearing that out loud for the first time. So that was really exciting.
Exciting.
But it was such an honor to talk to you both. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, no, thank you for coming over. Like or virtually coming over. It's such a treat.
No, this is great fun. And I think that young writers are going to really get a lot out, especially are going to be inspired.
And I will
by your
always
story.
now think of Peter Marks' name as being hilarious because of its consonants.
Oh, I see. Very good. Yeah, thank
Peter
you.
Marks.
Yeah.
You have a funny name, Mr. Peter Marks.
Well, Vincentelli is pretty hilarious too.
It's too long. It's too long to be hilarious, and it ends with a vowel. So that's just not as intrinsically funny as Peter Marks, which is Peter Marks. And mine is way too long.
I think it would be funnier if you took the S off. Actually, and then
exactly.
It would be funnier if it was Peter Mark.
You have a note.
Yeah.
You have a note.
It needs a
Just if you're looking for the laugh. It's my
I'm always looking for the laugh.
That's his stage name now. That's when he's going to go do stand-up. He's going to be Peter Mark.
Yeah. You're giving me too many inspirations here. I may have to do that. Selina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, then. That was wonderful. And Elizabeth, we have some work to do trying to keep up this level of standard for interviews.
The guests. I don't. It's really hard. I picked up some very useful tips. Go short. Shorter is funnier.
Yeah, I know.
So if only I could press the Insta edit button on my rambling, verbosity.
Well, I'll tell you, Elizabeth, that someone this week said, that I was okay on the podcast, but they love you.
Oh, really?
Yes. They said, you're good, but Elizabeth, oh my God, she is dynamite. So I thought, okay, I'll hang, I'll hitch my wagon to that star. I have no.
I didn't know you were talking to my mom.
Yeah, no. En français, exactly. We were,
That's right.
Yeah, no, so
And
keep doing what you're doing.
Listen, it's all about, as we know, it's all about SpongeBob.
It always is. It always comes
I
back.
have not even said that in too many episodes, but it just came back. All right. Okay. So
anyway,
we should wrap this up because we need to save some for next time because we have another really juicy guest. I'm not sure juicy is the right term, but it is now. It is now. Juicy is a funny word.
Yeah.
It's short and funny.
Well, it doesn't have any. It has a consonant, but it's a soft consonant, isn't it? I mean, juice.
I won't be able to stop thinking about this now. I really will not. Everything I'm going to hear is going to be I'm going to have her voice in my head saying consonant and vowel.
Well, when I see you in one of your reviews analyzing the vowels and consonants, I'll know where it came from.
I'm going to count them. I'm going to count them to see if it's the needle is going towards emotion or comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or, intellect. Okay, well, listen, thanks for listening to our podcast.
Oh, yes. And we're working hard on lining up more shows because, folks, it's busy. It's busy. I'm not complaining because there's one thing I don't like is theater critics. I was like, oh, my God, I've seen so many shows. Oh, really? You're tired because you have to park your butt in a seat and see shows? I would never complain about that. I love it. I love it. Thanks for listening. I'm Elizabeth Vincentelli.
And I'm Peter Marks. You can find us on marksvincentelli.substack.com. Please subscribe.
For the very special paying subscriber only episodes, we're always cooking up in our little podcast kitchen, and let us know what you think. I'm still on Twitter X. I don't know how to, under my own name, easy to find, and on Threads as Double Diamond EV, which also you can find me under my own name. I think that's how it works. I have no idea. And Peter is on Threads as Peter J. Marks. Or is it J. Mark? Is it
maybe.
Is that your alter ego?
If it's funnier, I'm all in.
Is that your alter ego from the Comedy Cellar?
Indeed.
Is that Peter J. Mark?
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.